Again with another episode. In this episode, I'm going to share with you a conversation or several conversations that I've had with this one particular guy. He's, in my opinion, I call him anyway, a reformed major drug dealer. He wanted me to share his testimony with you because he has become ashamed of the person that the dope game turned him into. And at the beginning of our conversations, like I said, that took place over many, many weeks, I let him know that I don't put anybody on my podcast to glorify crime in any way, shape, or form. That's not what I believe in. I don't stand for that anymore. And he assured me that it would be worth my time to hear what he had to say. And he thought that it would be a good testimony to put on my podcast. So I listened to him over several weeks, talked to him, asked him many questions, and I have come to believe that this gentleman is different. He's not the person that he became selling drugs, and he wanted, like I said, he wanted to share that aspect of himself with me so that I could share it with you. Now, in this episode, I'm going to take you back to when he was a teenager, when he got his first pack, how he got in the game, and all of the things that come along with that, what he learned from that first day about the dope game. So with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. In this show, I'm going to be using the name Rico. He's not comfortable with his name being out there yet, and I understand that. So, like I say, when you hear me say Rico, I'm talking about my friend that came to me and wanted to share his testimony. But Rico got in the dope game when he was 14. A friend of his, we're going to use a fake name as well, for him, named June, approached him one day and asked him did he want to help him make some money, you know what I'm saying, so they could buy a pair of tennis shoes. Both of them loved to play basketball. They went to the rec center every day, and they would see other people in the rec center that had shoes that were better than theirs and all this and that. And June just got tired of wearing shoes that he had to put tape on to hold together. And he talked to Rico about making money. June lived in another part of town in Nashville where it was a little bit rougher, and he was around people that sold drugs all the time. So he had some knowledge about drugs. June didn't. Even though he lived in Nashville as well, the area that he lived in, it wasn't as infested as the area that June lived in. So when June approached him, this is his friend, when he approached him and said, look, do you want to make some money selling cocaine? Rico, because that was his friend, he told him, yeah. He said, but I don't know anything about it, and how do you sell it? How do we make money? So on and so forth. So June said, I got all of it. I'm going to explain all of it to you. It's easy. All we got to do is get the product. And June told Rico that we can get an 8-ball for $120. This is back in the early 80s. And at that time, again, Rico don't know anything about the dope game, so he said, how much is an 8-ball? And for those of you out there that don't know, an 8-ball of cocaine is 3.5 grams, right? So he said, okay, I got $60, you got $60, we put that together, we can get it. So keep in mind, they're both 14, but June is a little bit more advanced than Rico. He's a little bit faster. He's the area, like I said, the area that he grew up in, it was a little bit more faster. So they didn't have any way to get to the area where they could buy the drugs. So being teenagers, they did what most teenagers were doing back in the day. They rode their bicycles to another part of Nashville, which took them about 30 or 40 minutes to get to this area, right? You may know of the area in Nashville called Trinity Hills, right? So they had to ride their bicycles a significant amount to get to Trinity Hills. And when they got to Trinity Hills, at the bottom of the hill, Rico told me there was a police car sitting at the bottom of the hill, and they just pedaled their bicycles right past this police officer up the hill. And when they got up the hill, it was an apartment complex in the cut. And that's when June told him, said, look, man, my partner, he's over here in the back of the apartment complex. We just got to go back there and meet him. So when they went back there, his partner was sitting out back, standing by the garbage cans, just chilling with some other guys. So when they rolled up on their bicycles, two teenagers now, pulling up on these grown men, the guy that June knew turned, faced him, and said, what's up, man? You trying to get in? And that's when June told him, yeah, we got the money. So he pulled out the $120 and gave it to this guy, and he handed him a pack. This is the first time that Rico had ever seen any cocaine. And when he looked at it, he became fascinated with it. That's what he told me when he looked at it, because it looked like pieces of chalk, solid pieces of chalk that had this smell like when you're in a hospital. If you've ever been in a hospital and it's really, really medicine-y like, that's what this cocaine, as Rico described, that's what this cocaine smelled like. And he said he just stared at it and looked at it. And then June told Rico, now pay attention to this because this is going to be important later on. June told Rico to put it in his pocket, right? Now, when I was talking to Rico, he pointed out to me why that was important. He said that was the first time his friend June had actually used him or manipulated him. And how did he manipulate him? Well, see, Rico had no concept of the fact that what they were doing was against the law. They could have gone to jail for what they had just done. They had just purchased cocaine, right, which is a felony charge. But Rico didn't have any idea of that. He had no concept of that. But June did. June did, and June told him to keep it in his pocket. And he did. He didn't question it. And they rode back down the hill past the police officer that was sitting at the bottom of the hill in his car. Totally unaware, Rico is totally unaware that he had just broken the law and could have gone to jail. It was later on in his life that he realized that that was the beginning of what he would call the first lesson that he learned in the dope game. You know what I'm saying? It's always keep a buffer between yourself and the people that you're dealing with. In case something goes wrong, it's on them and it's not you. He said that's the first thing that he learned about selling drugs, how to learn to manipulate and use other people. And he wanted to make sure that you understood that. So anyway, they ride home, or ride to June's house rather, and it took them about 30 to 40 minutes to get back to where they were going. And when they got to June's house, they went into his bedroom, and June took the pack from Rico, put it on the table, and covered it with a book. And then he reached under his bed, and it was a hammer under the bed. So he got the hammer, and he's hitting the cocaine that's under the book. He's hitting it with the hammer, flattening it out. And as he's doing that, he sees the book going lower and lower, so it's flattening it out. So when he took the book off and looked at it, he could see that those pieces of cocaine, which were, in his mind, it looked like chalk, they had flattened out and become powdery. So that's when June took the cocaine and poured it out on the table and took something that looked like a credit card, as far as Rico said, but it was a business card, and he was sifting the dope, moving it back and forth, sifting it, separating it, chopping it down. Any pieces that were in it that were still like chunky, he would break them down and get it as smooth as he could get it until it was all powdery, fine, right? So after he did that, he bagged it up, and he had enough pieces, according to June, this is what it's supposed to look like, because Rico had no idea. He had enough pieces where he split it between both of them, and they had, I think he said $175 each worth of cocaine. So at the end of the day, when they finished doing that, Rico said, now what do we do? How do we get rid of it? I don't know anybody to sell it to. So June said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go down on the block, and we're going to post up like everybody else. And he said, you got to blend in. You got to act like you belong there, that you know what you're doing. So when they got down there, keep in mind now, these are two teenagers. And they go down on the block, and there's nothing but grown people down there, right? So when they get down the hill and they post up, Rico said he is nervous because this is his first time. He's never done this before. And he said people are moving everywhere real fast, real fast. So he's just standing there, and after about 10 or 15 minutes, somebody walks up to him, and their lips are all dry and white and chapped. And they're licking on their lips, and they said, man, you got anything? And he was like, yeah. And he reached into his pocket to pull it out. But at that time, that's when June grabbed his hand and said, hold up, don't do that. Ask him what does he want. And he asked the guy, he said, what you looking for? And he said, I'm trying to get a 20. He said, you trying to get a 20? He was like, yeah, I'm trying to get a 20. So that's when June told him, reach in your pocket, pull out the pack, don't let him see you doing it, and you grab one of those packets out of there, and that's a 20. He said, tell him to give you the money first. So he turns back to the dude and said, give me the money. So the dude starts talking and acting like he's got the money, but he wants to see the product first, right? So that's when June tell him, look, go ahead on, man. Go ahead on. You trying to get over on somebody. Now keep in mind, again, both of them are 14 years old, but June, I told you, is a little bit more advanced than Rico. So he's talking to this guy, this drug addict, actually. He's talking to this guy like he's been around him before. Rico's observing everything that's going on because this is his first time. He's really out of his element. You know what I'm saying? But he's only doing this because June wants him to do it. So the guy pulls out the 20 after going back and forth with June. He pulls out the 20 and he hands it to Rico, right? Then Rico hands him the dope. And he opens it up and he sticks his pinky in it and he tastes it on his tongue. He said, oh, this is some good stuff. And then he folds it up and he said, man, I'll be back. And he leaves. So he's standing there. Rico just made his first sale. Just made his first sale of cocaine in his life, $20 sale. So the guy leaves. June is standing there and other people are coming up and he's making these sales. And Rico is just waiting on this other guy to come back so he can make some sales. He's still nervous and he's watching June. June's getting rid of his stuff. Rico's just standing there. Now other people start to approach Rico and he pulls out. He does exactly what June told him. He doesn't let anybody see him pulling out. He pulls it out. He gets the money first and he hands the packs. He's doing that and all of a sudden, both of them are down to the last 3 or 4 pieces that they have. So this guy that approached Rico at the very beginning, his first sale, he comes back. He said, you got any more of that? And he says, Rico tells him, yeah, I got 3 more, man. He said, what you want? And he said, I need all of them. Let me get all of them. And that's when Rico's like, oh, okay. He turns his back and he pulls them out. And when he turns back to the dude is standing there pointing a gun at him. He's got him and June just standing there. And he's pointing the gun at him. He said, give me that. Then he tells June to empty his pockets and give him what he has left. So they ended up emptying their pockets and putting it in dude's hand. And dude got the last of what they had, right? Then he tells them before he leaves, he said, where the money at? Where's the money? So both of them go in their pockets. They're terrified, especially Rico. They go in their pockets, grab the money, and hand him the money. And then he looks at him and tells him, if you follow me, I'm going to kill you. Right? And then he takes the gun and he hits June in the side of his head. He doesn't touch Rico. He hits June. And that's when Rico tells me that he learned another lesson as far as in the dope game, that you can trust nobody. Nobody, not even the people that are buying it from you. And this guy walks away from them. Now they're sitting around, both of them broke, don't have any money. They're riding their bicycles back to June's house, right? Listen to what I just said. 2 14-year-olds tried to get in the dope game, spent their last money, got an 8-ball of cocaine, broke it down, made the packs up there on the block with grown men selling their drugs, and they ended up getting robbed. This is their first entry into the dope game. They got robbed the first day. So what do? They go back to June's house. Well, it's an apartment. He lives with his mom. They go back to June's, and June has a pistol. So he pulls out the pistol. He said, man, we finna go find dude. He said, I know where dude hangs out. So they're riding their bikes looking for what, back in the day, in the early 80s, you know, people cooked the cocaine then. They didn't, crack cocaine hadn't really exploded on the scene. It's all powdered and then they cook it up. So they go to this dope house where everybody's inside smoking. So when they get there, They walk through the door, and everything is covered in those dark black trash bags. The windows, the walls, everything is covered. And on the tables, all Rico would see is candles. And when he stepped in, he froze. And then he backed out. He said, man, I'm not going in there. He said something washed over him. It was like evil was in this place. So he backed out, and then June said, no, come on, we have to go in here. You know what I'm saying? They'll go, dude, over there. So when they step in, dude is sitting there. He's not even paying any attention because he's focused on cooking up this cocaine. So June walks up beside him and puts the pistol to his head. A 14-year-old puts a pistol to this grown man's head. And he said, man, where is our money? And give me my dope. So the dude starts shaking. He's got a spoon in his hand. And I don't know if any of you have ever seen anybody cooking up any dope, but basically he had the spoon, and he had the powder in the spoon, and he had a lighter. He done put some, it looked like Sprite or 7-Up in the spoon to wetten it, the dope, and now he's got the lighter up underneath heating it up. And you can see it heating up. And then after it gets to bubbling a little bit, he'll put the lighter down, and then he'll take a penny, and he's running the penny back and forth. Why would he run the penny back and forth? Because the penny is made out of what? Copper. The copper allows for the drugs to stick to the penny as he's cooking it in the spoon, right? So all the dope that's going to be smokable or used is stuck to the penny. So after they finish running the penny through the liquefied dope and it sticks to the penny, then they scrape the dope off the penny. There you got what? Dope to smoke. So the dude that's getting high, he's locked in on that. And Rico's locked in on watching him do this. It's like fascinating to him. While June is standing there with a pistol to this dude's head, this dude is not even paying attention to this pistol pointed at his head. He's cooking his dope. And Rico sits down and watches him. 2 14-year-olds, again, I'm going to keep saying that. So anyway, after the dude sets the spoon down and the dope, that's still on the penny, he reaches in his pocket, and June cocks the pistol. He said, don't play with me. He reaches in his pocket, hands him all the money, and a couple of bags of the dope back. He said, man, the rest of it is in the spoon. So June tells him, you can keep that. And he said, the next time we see you, better have our money. So they get the money, and they're leaving. And when they leave, Rico's talking a mile a minute, asking June, what was he doing? What was he in there doing? What's going on with that spoon? And he told him he was cooking up the dope so he could smoke it. See, a lot of people liquefy that dope to shoot it. A lot of people leave it powdery to snort it. But some people had gotten turned on to cooking it, which would ultimately be known as crack cocaine. And that's what he was doing. He was cooking it. See, back then, in the early 80s, people didn't cook it up in large quantities. They cooked it up one piece at a time. Most of the dope men that learned to cook it up in large quantities, that came later. That wasn't in the early 80s. So you go buy you a 20, you cook up at 20, and then you could take the dope that's stuck on the penny, put it in the cigarette, put it in your weed, and you smoke it. But even back then, people didn't call it that, but they were smoking crack, right? But at the end of the day, Rico is listening to everything that June is saying. And June is only 14, but he knows all of this. He knows all of what Rico needs to know, and June is teaching him this. And as June is teaching him about the dope game, he started to realize, as he told me as we were talking, that June is somebody that he would eventually come to not trust. It was like he knew so much about what was going on, but he didn't tell Rico everything that he needed to know so that he could make a smart decision. He told him just enough to get him to go in on it with him because he wanted somebody to go in on it with him. He manipulated him into the dope game. And that's how a lot of people end up in the dope game. They get manipulated into it. They show you what's glittery. They tell you that we're going to buy some tennis shoes, or we're going to help mama pay the bills, or we're going to be able to go to this concert or go to the Super Bowl or whatever the case may be. They show you the glittery part of it, but they don't tell you the ugly part of it. On his first day, he learned the ugly part of it. Luckily, he says that nobody got killed. But he said on that first day, what he learned was that you're going to have to be a monster to survive this game. You're going to have to be a monster to survive this game. And that night, he wondered if he had made the right decision. But time would tell, because at the end of the day, he kept doing it. He kept doing it. And it turned him into somebody that he is ashamed of today. That's what he told me. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to conclude this episode, but there's more to this story, right? There's more to this story, and I want you to tune in to the other episodes that I'm going to be doing and having posted, talking about Rico and how he became this monster in the dope game and how the dope game turned him into somebody that he's ashamed of today, right? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.